Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As you guys know, because a lot of you guys were responsible for helping Politics Done Right get out there to good old Philadelphia. Where's Philadelphia? Pennsylvania, for the Netroots Nation 2019. Well, we were out there, and you know what? It was the biggest, the largest one that Netroots Nation had ever had, bar none. What that meant as well is that we had tons and tons and tons of folks from all over the country, activists, politicians, etc. The major politicians did something different this year, however. You know what they did? They didn't come around Radio Row as much as they normally do, but you know what? We still grabbed a few of them. But that being said, we had a whole lot of activists out there that we got to be in touch with. And you know what? All in all, it was a good thing. It was a good showing. And I tell you what, I made quite a few new friends with activists, of course, with other activists, I should say. And above and beyond that, I got to speak to quite a few. And you know what? So many so that you know what happened, right? So many so that we just couldn't just say, you're just a friend, you're just this, you're just that. We had to do the interviews. So I had so many of them. I couldn't play them in 1 week. I couldn't play them in 2 weeks. I couldn't talk about it that way. So what I did is I started to break them down, process them, and said, you know what, I'm going to bring it to you guys because that's what I told you guys before I left I was going to do anyway, and that is what I'm doing. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get busy with the show. Title of the show today is Basic Income Experiment, Color of Change, Rashad Robinson, and Medicare for All. Those are the three topics that we're covering. Subtitle today, producer of Basic Income Experiment came onto the show. Color of Change, Rashad Robinson challenges corporation, and Medicare for All activists make their case. We have 3 interviews covering the important topics, including Medicare for All. Netroots Nation 2019 was the largest one ever. It seemed like activists and politicians covering every single topic were present. And I had the honor of interviewing, you know what, 48. I think I interviewed about 10 politicians and 38 activists, something like that. Of course, if I'm lying, don't hold it against me because I don't have the figures in front of me. So I had the honor of interviewing 48 of them in the week subsequent to the conference. I'm airing them as part of our daily broadcast. Too many of these subjects get scant coverage as the cable news and broadcast news stay in one solid repeating loop. You turn on your TV, what happens? You hear the same stories over and over again. There are people out there. Yesterday I had a great interview. Right now it's on Patreon for all my subscribers to see. They get first crack at it. I had a great interview with Ted Howard, who is with the Democracy Collaborative. These guys have collaboratives all over the country, all over the world actually, and people are working for themselves. They're working beyond and beneath the capitalist system to really make things happen. He's one of the protagonists of that, and so those of you that are subscribers are going to be able to see it a few days before anybody else sees it. So don't forget, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, because somehow we got to keep this stuff going. Today we discuss basic income as well. This guy is a producer, and he has an experiment where they're actually showing you in real time, is basic income going to work? Of course it is going to work. Math. It's math, people. It's math. So what we have are experiments going on with basic income around the country. You don't hear that when they talk about, oh, those left-wing liberals, they want to bring on basic income and, oh, they're crazy. And we have experiments that are going on that show this thing works. And of course, Medicare for all, that's my pet peeve. We have two youngsters that are going to give you all that you need to know about it. But today is Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the month. And who do we have? Of course, we have our regular, the one and only Tamara Sheely is going to be with us, and she's going to be discussing some good stuff as usual as well. So without further ado, Tamara Sheely, how you doing, my friend?
Hi, Egberto. Good afternoon, Politics Done Right family.
Well, we are going to have a great show today. Actually, we have a pretty darn full show today, and it kind of started, like I told you earlier, man, I was running something like half hour, 45 minutes behind, and I was just hoping that you were running a little bit behind too. So, maybe I got lucky. So I heard through the grapevine that you guys have senatorial problems. What's going on?
We have all kinds of issues over here in the state of Georgia. It is never a dull moment in Georgia politics, Egberto. So yes, it has been formally announced that Senator Johnny Isakson is going to resign. His seat actually isn't up until 2022. Yes.
Wow.
But he's had Parkinson for quite a number of years. So he's made a decision that this will be his last year. So Georgia, the governor gets to appoint a replacement, and we're going to have a special election in November to fulfill that seat. But yeah, never a dull moment in Georgia politics.
If I'm not mistaken,
for a long time.
Yeah, he's not one of the real crazy right wingers that kind of harm. I think right now he's been having to play ball. Of course, if you're the party sort of, you know how a lot of party people only do the party thing. We're party people, but we don't necessarily always do the party thing. So.
Yeah, you're a party person.
No, you're a party person. I didn't see you running as an independent. You're running as a Democrat. You're a party person.
I'm a Democrat, but
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, my dear friend, so let me ask you, Stacey Abrams, is she going to try to run for... Wait, how does it work in Georgia? Because this is an important seat if we're talking about taking the majority in 20. So when is there going to be a special election after he appoints a Republican?
Well, he will appoint a replacement to get through November 2020. Isaacson will remain in office until the end of the year. So he will appoint a replacement. November 2020, there will be a special election to finish out that term.
So let me see if I understand this right. Are you telling me, and please, I really hope this is what you're telling me. Are you telling me that in Georgia, there will be a special election at the same time that we have the presidential election on the same date, so that if Stacey Abrams' voter project works appropriately, we just may get honest voting in Georgia, which opens the door, given that is not a gerrymandered election, that's a statewide election, which gives the opportunity for us to pick up a Democratic seat in Georgia if we have a blowout.
Yeah, but we have two. We do have a Senate race. Purdue has challengers, Democratic challengers. I haven't been watching the Republican side as closely, but thus far we have three candidates that have 3 or 4. I think there may be a fourth one that will be running as a Democratic challenger against Purdue. So we could possibly have both our state senators. If this is done right, we could have 2 Democratic seats in November. Well, if it's done right.
Wait, Tamara, this is actually, wait. This is big news. This is huge because Georgia is trending Democratic. No doubt about it. Georgia,
we say we're purple. We're not blue. We're not red.
Right.
We say we're purple.
But isn't it true that Stacey almost won, and absent a lot of shenanigans, she probably could have won without the voter suppression aspect of it?
Oh gosh, yeah. Brian Kemp pulled his own trigger. Our current governor, he stayed in office when as the Secretary of State while he was running for governor, and
right.
That to me it was not illegal, here in Georgia, but it was totally unethical that he
Right.
remained in office as the Secretary of State, the office that oversees the voting process. You remain in office as you run for governor. And there was a lot of shenanigans. Georgia, we're known for the trickery, Egberto. Voter suppression is real. Faulty equipment, that was rampant around the state. We had not enough in some precincts, Egberto. There wasn't even enough voting machines. I live in a district where we had more than enough. I promise you, I probably didn't wait more than 2 or 3 minutes. There were so many machines in certain areas, and then in certain urban areas, there was 2, 3. I've heard a story where the power was out at once, and people were told to come back. It was all kinds of, Stacey, the Brian Kemp removed voters from the voting rolls. It was just a lot of trickery, Alberto. Long lines. The list just goes on and on with what happened around Stacey Abrams' race.
I think there's a silver lining there, and that silver lining is, what I think people are going to really have to take a look at what's going on in Georgia, because as it turns out, just listening to you are telling me, unlike any other state in the nation, Georgia will have 2 senatorial races up. And if Trump is in big trouble, that Republicans just say to hell with it, a lot of us are just going to stay home. And we could actually get the perfect storm that Georgia ends up. We may have to start pouring some money into Georgia, because we could turn out that Georgia elects 2 Democratic senators, given how close Stacey Abrams came to winning the whole damn thing. I think that is what you're saying.
Yeah, and you know what? She started an initiative, Fair Fight 2020, to go across the country to make sure that we don't have the same kind of voter suppression tactics that we had here in Georgia. She's really making an impact and making sure that the vote isn't suppressed around the country. So yeah, we might do something very historical here in Georgia. I'm always hopeful, but Georgia, we tend to shock us at the end, but I'm always hoping we'll do the right thing.
I am not even Tamara, I'm not even thinking about shocking, okay? I'm just thinking about math here. I'm thinking about math and organizing. This is all about math and organizing. If your leader have you in a position that you are so, what's the word that I want to use? Thinking that it's all over, that things are not working right, just maybe, this is what it's gonna take. I have hope for you guys. I really have hope that, and put it this way, I don't think the senators are gonna split. In other words, I think Georgia goes in one direction. I think they either come back with 2 Democratic senators or 2 Republican senators. Because they are both they're both statewide. So I can't see you splitting, because people are very tribal in the way they're voting right now. So I cannot foresee a split, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Edward. So I think that once they get to the ballot, they're going to either vote in one direction or the other. I don't think they will pretty much sway in either regard. I'm with you there.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so tell me now, what else is new before we move on? We're right at the 14-minute mark, and I know that generally speaking, at least you say that you are very, very, very busy woman.
Well, Egberto, I am in law school, so just be mindful that my days are consumed and my nights are consumed.
Well, you did very well in that debate that you had in school. I heard you guys won the whole thing, didn't you?
Oh, we had 3 days of a residency where we did a lot of negotiations and a lot of serious, intense kind of getting into the weeds of how to do this stuff. And I actually did relatively well, Egberto. I really did. I pulled out.
Well, I had no doubt that you would have done well.
So.
Hey, that's why you're in politics done right, man. Come on now. Of course you did well. When you get all this stuff going and we get into any kind of a political trouble or whatever, we're going to be making that call. TAMARA Sheila. Look, we need your assistance now, my friend.
I appreciate it. Yeah, but keep an eye on Georgia. Georgia politics is quite interesting. We got a lot of great candidates that are coming out. We have a lot of municipal races A lot of people are trying to get in position, and I think 2020 is going to be a very exciting year right here in the state of Georgia. So don't sleep on us, Egberto. And
I won't
politics
sleep. Give
done
me a
right
closer,
now.
Tamara. Give me a closer. Let me know what's going on, my friend. Give me a closer.
Yeah, so you can find us every Friday. Mr. Egberto Willies joins us every Friday as we do Tamara for Georgia. This week we will have a U.S. Senate candidate, Mr. Ted Terry, will be our guest. Egberto, I hope you remember that you will be interviewing him as well.
Oh
So
boy.
he's a U.S. Senate candidate. So we'll get to ask those tough questions, and hopefully he will lead the conversation in the right direction.
I wonder what your tough question is going to be for the senatorial candidate. I can
You know
already.
what my questions are going to be.
I know what your question is going to be.
We
But
will
you know,
be talking reparations. We will be talking ADOS. We will be talking a Black agenda, and I want to hear where his thoughts are
well,
on that.
let me tell you, we are going to be talking a good Black Latino agenda with now politics in Espanol. Since you have said you guys are not black enough, you guys are not ADOS.
Never said you weren't Black enough. We just said you're not ADOS. Don't start. Don't
I
start.
have-
None won't be none.
Tamara Sheely, thank you so kindly for being on the show. You have a good one, and listen, you finish off that class with a bang. We know you're going to do it, my friend. You take care, all right?
Thank you, Egberto.
Have a wonderful day now.
See you Friday.
Okay, folks, look, that was Tamara Sheila. We're going to have a great show for you today. As I told you, the first person I want to bring on, folks, is Rashad Robinson. This guy, Rashad Robinson, he is great, right? This guy, when corporations do wrong, especially in his case, it's the Color of Change is a company that he works for. When these corporations do color-centric things, or otherwise, not only color-centric, but that's his concentration, they really challenge corporations, boycotts the works, and he has been very, very successful in forcing the hands of corporations. When I saw him there, as usual, I had to have El Señor Robinson. Here's the interview. Check it out, and then we'll come back on the other side. This is Politics Done Right. I'm with the one and only Rashad Robinson. Rashad, how are you doing? The president of Color Purple.
I wish.
Color of Change.
I wish my economics would look a lot different right now. My wallet.
I know.
Yeah. If I was.
Tell me, man, what's new since the last time we spoke?
Well, what's new for Color of Change is we are steadily working to build power towards the 2020 election, and in the process working on a whole set of really key issues. One is a whole lot of work around tech accountability, the technologies that have so much potential to move us into the future also have the potential to move us into the past, into a world where we don't have the same.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yes.
Explain that.
And so, we've been in an ongoing multiple year-long fight with Facebook that we're starting to see some real traction on. But, so many of the algorithms that, undergird these systems, right, allow you to market jobs just to white people,
Right.
or market housing just to white people, or to send predatory ads to certain communities, Black people, people of color. And so not just that, but the ways that their platform was used during the last election cycle, all of the sort of ways in which they've worked with law enforcement over the years without warrants that have meant to target not just Black activists, but Black people in general. And so really ensuring that there's rules of the road for these huge technology platforms that have such control and such reach over our lives. A lot of people say to me, why don't you just tell people to sign off Facebook if you don't like it?
Right.
But Facebook has 2.3 billion users. That's more followers than Christianity.
But it has become a utility as well.
Exactly. And because it's a utility, you simply can't opt out of it and still engage in so many different industries and so many different spaces. And so if we don't actually have rules for how these platforms engage, we're going back to the days of the 30s and the 20s where, the robber barons and the big corporations were able to collude and create these type of monopolies that controlled our society. We can't go back to that time. And so one of the things we're really doing is working to build the type of power, both inside of government, with shareholders, and holding these companies publicly accountable to really change the rules. And we've been getting a lot of traction. Facebook just came out with their civil rights audit, which was a victory for us. We actually demanded it. They have been doing the audit. They've made a lot of changes in terms of content moderation and algorithms. They've got a lot more work to do, but we're seeing progress, and it wouldn't have happened if everyday people didn't stand up and join us. Another place where we're seeing a lot of traction is in the criminal justice space. And we've been involved in electing over 12 progressive prosecutors around the country, in cities around the country. Right here in Philadelphia, we were involved with organizations like Reclaim, Media Mobilizing Project, the 215 Coalition, and other folks in an effort to start shifting and changing the rules around prosecutors, who are the most powerful actors in the criminal justice space. And then we've been doing a lot of work with the presidential candidates, pushing them on their issues, challenging them to think about what type of investments in the black community they're going to be making, getting them really clear on their platforms, and also being really clear with them around the role that corporate power is playing and has played in limiting the opportunities for people to prosper.
Now, you along with Color of Change have been very, very effective. The boycotts that you've done have been very successful in the advertising industry. How is it that a company like yours, an organization like yours, have been so effective over the years? I mean, it's not like it's an old standing organization. We've had the NAACP and many other organizations that haven't come not even as close to being as effective as you guys have.
Well, first, you can't hold people accountable to that you're beholden to for money.
Say that again.
You can't hold people accountable that you're beholden to for money, you know?
That applies not only to the NAACP, that applies to the Democratic Party proper.
All of them.
That applies to every single entity that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And for that reason, we need this type of independent media out here.
Yes, and that's why we don't take their money. And we don't take their money, and as a next generation civil rights organization, it allows us, when we get on the phone with Visa, for instance, and say, you need to stop processing fees for white nationalist organizations, and they say, you need to go talk to the banks, it's the banks, and the credit card companies say, go talk, the banks say, go talk to the credit card companies, and they send us back. We're not taking money for either of them. Right. So we're gonna hold them accountable, and we're gonna raise our voices, and we're gonna mobilize our members. And now, we've got all 4 major credit card companies that have now stopped processing fees for about 100 white nationalist organizations. They couldn't write us a check to make us go away, and most importantly, they couldn't threaten to pull away their check for us to go away. And our ability to speak truth to power clearly, and the people we serve is not the major corporations who are serving their shareholders, we're serving black people who are our shareholders.
Rashad Robinson, thank you so kindly for
Always
being
good to be with you.
It is important work that you're doing. Keep it up and keep being as successful as you are.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Folks, I have a lot of respect for that guy. These guys know how to mobilize to get results. When they've moved big corporations like Visa, MasterCard, and all these guys, not only with the white nationalist movement, but even with Facebook, because again, Facebook is a great platform to do good, but it's also a great platform that can be used to do bad. And if you notice what he spoke about how Facebook targeting can work, right? So now you have Facebook targeting that you could actually target down to the race, income, who knows, eventually even weight. Maybe you want to have an apartment where there are just a whole bunch of blue-eyed, blonde, skinny people who live there. Well, with the kind of information that they're taking off of Facebook, etc., there's so many metrics that allows one to actually discriminate. So within all the technologies that we have, you also have to build in protections for everybody. Of course, we don't want to leave out anybody out of success. We don't want to leave out anybody from having access to success. Again, that magical word is access to success. So anyhow, the next piece that we spoke about is basic income, and this is Conrad Shaw. Conrad Shaw is a producer of a documentary where they're actually studying this stuff. People talk about it in in sort of empirical terms, not empirical terms, but aspirational terms. These guys are doing actual experiments with it to see how it will work, that sort of a thing. So check this out now. Those of you who follow Politics Done Right know that we've discussed basic income. We've discussed a whole lot of different methods that we can use to really solve our income inequality problem, our income disparity, the whole works. Well, today I have the honor to be with Conrad Shaw, who is the producer of Bootstraps. He's a UBI trial manager. UBI standing for Universal Basic Income. Conrad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's nice to meet you.
Look, tell me a little bit about, first of all, you're in a panel here, correct?
Yeah, I just came from a screening of our docuseries. Some of the footage from our docuseries.
Okay, well, first of all, tell me a little bit about basic income, first of all. Before we go into your documentary, tell this audience exactly what universal basic income is.
Basic income is a premise that it's basically a way to design a society where nobody has nothing, right? So you move the starting line of income to something other than zero. And the way you do that is by giving cash directly to people on an unconditional basis. So it's money that everyone would get, say, weekly or monthly, and it comes through government or whatever agency, and there's questions about how it would be funded, and it's all up for debate. But it's a reliable, permanent check for everybody.
Now, how is it that won't create a whole lot of slough-offs?
That's the question we're seeking to embrace. So you get two questions generally, two big questions when you talk about UBI. One is, how do you pay for it? And there's a lot of answers to that. And the other one is, how do you make sure people will spend it well? And sort of what it really brings into question is trust. Do we trust people to spend it well? And should we trust them to spend it well? And that's what we're trying to address with our docuseries, by showing people with a basic income.
Many of the theories from those people who are always against somebody getting something for nothing is that it creates a moral hazard. I think in as much as you're about to do a test, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, in as much as that is what many have said, I think some experiments have gone on throughout the world with universal basic income that proves otherwise. Most people I know actually want to work.
Yeah, it comes down to a question of human nature, and that's one of the things I think I've learned most through this is I think we've grown sort of a warped idea of human nature,
right?
Because we grow up in a system of scarcity, of artificial scarcity.
Artificial scarcity.
Yeah, we all believe that there's only so much to go around, so you got to get your slice of the pie for yourself, even if it's at the expense of others, so you can survive. You think about, what do I got to take for my retirement? What do I got to take for my rent next week? But if we were, as people, if we knew that we had that basic amount covered, how would it change our behavior? And would that uncover or adjust or change what our basic driving purposes are as people?
Well, the theory, I think, my theory is that it wouldn't. I mean, there are people who are slough-offs no matter what, and there are people who want to work no matter what. Okay, you have a project, and I think your project involves testing that in our particular countries, which I think is necessary. So tell us a little about it.
Yeah, so the idea is not to describe why people should like basic income. It's to explore if people think they should like basic income by showing it in practice. So there are trials going on of basic income around the world, but they're all designed to be scientifically rigorous statistical trials. We wanted there to be a trial that was more qualitative, telling stories, and showing and letting people live out the experience of what it means to be with basic income. So we found 20 Americans all over the country, families and individuals, 11 stories in total in 10 states, and they're receiving a basic income for 2 years of $1,000 per adult, and each person gets their own. It's not per household, and 300 something per month per kid. It goes to the adults. So like a family of four is getting $2,700 a month, and an individual is getting, $1,000, and there's no strings attached.
How many families are we talking about?
11.
11 families.
Some of them are just individuals, but households. 11 households, and yeah, they're getting it no strings attached.
How much is that costing you per month?
We send out. We actually do it on a weekly basis, and we send out about. We do it through a partner. Netroots is our fiscal sponsor, and they're running the trial. But we send out about 4,100 a week
Total.
Yeah.
Okay, and wow. So the next question becomes, who's funding that?
We first started with a GoFundMe sort of thing.
Right.
We got enough to start 2 people, and then so we staggered people in, and we, asked 1 million foundations and wealthy donors, and eventually we found a couple radical enough to support us. Our EP, one of our supporters is named Lawrence Benison from New York, and our other ones are working anonymously, as it's a foundation working with Tides Foundation. And Tides Foundation is sort of, so our funder is the Tides Foundation through one of their donor
Right,
advised
sure,
funds.
one of your big donors, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so tell us a little bit about the project. You told me about giving the monies to these groups. I think you're filming it as well, doing some art.
Yeah, that's the
Tell
whole
us
point. We're filming very verite, fly on the wall style. So we're gonna capture what goes well, what doesn't, what they do, how it changes their lives, and simply share those stories with the people.
How long has it been going on right now?
The first people started about a year and 9 months ago, so they're coming near to the end of their trial, and
Right.
some people are a little over a year. So we have the first year
What kind of results
in
have
the
you seen?
can. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I obviously came in optimistic as someone who believes in UBI.
Were you disappointed?
But shit happens, right? Shit happens in
But
life.
were you disappointed in the aggregate?
In the aggregate, not even in individual cases. The thing that I'm finding in general, and I'm still leaving it open to see what happens, but a little bit of power and agency radically changes people's
Well,
lives.
I think Innes showed that in Washington, D.C. when he started giving ownership to people and apartments, etc. So, that
The
does
things
have
people
value.
do with the money are
Yeah.
incredible, and things we could not predict. And they're going through very, very difficult situations in some cases, but just seeing the resilience and seeing the creativity and seeing the confidence with people.
Now, how people can find out about you guys, find out about what you're doing?
Bootstraps Film at bootstrapsfilm.com. So Bootstraps is in pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right.
Film.com.
Bootstrap, is it plural?
Bootstraps.
Bootstrapsfilm.com.
Yeah, and then anywhere on social media, it's at Bootstraps Film.
At Bootstraps Films. Conrad Shaw, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Keep up the good work, and
You too.
I keep thinking outside of the box, because that's what we need.
Well, now he didn't want to release the results because, again, that's a documentary. But you notice what I asked him, right? I asked him in a backdoor way. So, were you disappointed at all, or whatever? And as it turns out, when he gave an answer like he wasn't disappointed, not even in one person. Okay, before I go to the last one, let me go ahead and talk to folks. Masticator said he just told us he is not doing well financially, yet Egberto calls him and his company successful. Oh, I think you missed the case. You don't know who Rashad Robinson is, do you? When he says, when Rashad Robinson said that, he's talking about compared to Oprah Winfrey, who is a billionaire. No, the Color of Change is doing just fine in what they're doing, and they're a very strong organization that get things done. And financially speaking, he's doing just fine for the work that he's doing. And none of us who do this kind of work, altruistic kind of work, get rich off of doing this. All we want to be able to do is pay our bills, and he's paying his bills just fine. He comes to every conference that I go to, all of these progressive conferences. I see Rashad and I see all these other progressives. Remember, that's the thing about progressives. We don't worship money. We don't have to be rich. Personally speaking, and I have to make this personal because for me it was a huge shift in life. Huge shift in life to go full altruistic and do these kinds of things to make a better society.
than to just go ahead and wake up every day to make a hell of a lot of money. You know, so I mean, it's a value set, Masticator. It is a value set. Bruce, thank you for mentioning immigration. I mean, I hear immigration so much on TV, a lot of times from the wrong point of view. You're absolutely right in bringing that topic up by saying, have you talked about immigration lately? Thanks for the slap on the wrist. Yes, I need to talk about immigration some. Thank you, my brother. Masticator, let me guess. The gets to decide who are white supremacists, and you call them by a dirty word. Of course, that's okay, Masticator. We know who white supremacists are, and Masticator, guess what? You do too. Well, you don't mean everybody access to success, only those who share your ideology. No, 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 no. Masticator, I want conservatives, progressives, anarchists, and everybody to have access to success. And by the way, Masticator, I don't know if you listened to my show yesterday where I was talking to everybody and asking people, don't go out there and unfriend folks for the sake of unfriending folks and all that kind of stuff. Talk to people, talk to people, talk to people. Because, you know, basically speaking, in the long run, we all want the same things. You know, I got conservatives in my family too. Do you think I have any hate for them? Hell no. I love these people. They decided to accept a conservative ideology, I think crazily so, but they did. They're individuals, and I still love them. They're my people. Okay, continuing. Let's see what else. Masticator says, out of all the ill-informed, stupid, and destructive policies of the far left, universal income surely is the king. Masticator, the reason I'm addressing you and not just letting that pass is for all the other listeners who would have seen your statement and just think that basic income sounds crazy. Even Andrew Yang, a big-time businessman, sees the merit in basic income as well. But let me tell you something. The good thing about science, right, is you do experiments to see what happens. When you don't have, because you can't push buttons on human beings to know you put this input in, you're going to get that output like we do in engineering. You can't do that with human beings. We have ideas based on past behavior, and based on past behavior, we think it would work. Well, the guy that you just saw, Conrad, they are actually putting the behavior as an experiment now with several different people from different backgrounds to see how it works. And if it works, then we'll go ahead and try to get that implemented. Now, you coming out and say, that is the craziest thing coming out of the far left. Universal income is surely is king of all the crazy things. On what are you making the decision? And based on you making a decision with no information, who is the, using those words, I don't call people by those words, but using those words on the left, maybe projection, sir? And by the way, thank you for saying, yeah, you are such a great person. No, I'm not such a great person. We are. There are a lot of people. And the reason I can do this is because there are a whole lot of people supporting this. So it's not, I'm not trying to make myself the great person. I'm saying all of those that are in this circle that are helping to promote these ideas, that are helping to promote the message to help us all, they're all doing the right thing. They're all doing the moral thing. So for those of you who support us, thank you so kindly. We're going to jump to Medicare for All, and then we'll come back and close out the show. But I want to address these things up front because you don't want to just leave them in the ether. So here we go with Medicare for All, two young men who are part of the movement. Okay, we're back with another mini edition of Politics Done Right. Today with Rand Skolnick. I had a problem saying that, as well as Max Cotterill. We are going to be discussing Medicare for All. You know that is likely the most important topic in the country right now. You are going to be receiving a lot of information to dissuade you from it. As you've heard many times on my programs, single
payer Medicare for all should be the only option. Do not believe anything else anybody's telling you, whether it's going to destroy the markets, destroy healthcare, destroy the employment of many people. Many things have the semblance of truth, but are far from reality. And what I have here is two experts, two policy experts with the National Nurses United. Last year, we spoke to one of their leaders, and I went and got now two policy experts that I am going to play the devil's advocate. And they are going to tell me why I am full of it for thinking Medicare for all is wrong. Welcome aboard, guys. First of all, introduce yourself.
How's it going? My name is Ryan Skolnick. I'm one of the distributed organizers for the National Nurses United campaign to win Medicare for all. And thrilled to be here to talk more about what we're doing and to help you all feel a little bit more comfortable going out there and talking about Medicare for all to people who might have some questions.
And you are?
And I'm Max Cotterill, also on the organizing team at National Nurses United, working to build the movement to pass Medicare for all, and excited to be here.
Okay, now tell me, Max, why is Medicare for all, single payer Medicare for all, the solution we need to look to?
Yeah, I mean that's the basic question, right? But it's the only policy out there that will provide high quality healthcare to all Americans, not just access, not just insurance, actual healthcare to all people in the U.S. While simultaneously getting the out of control costs and greed of the industry under control. There's no other policy that will do it.
Okay, so Ryan, what I'm going to ask you first of all is let's get down to basic. When you listen to to many politicians on TV, what they tell you is, oh, Medicare for all is just a moniker, but nobody really knows what it is. Nobody really knows what form it takes. They are trying to put within the people's psyche some sort of confusion. Take that confusion away.
Medicare for all is a specific policy. It is a single payer system. Single payer meaning there is one insurance plan that everyone is under, provided by a public plan, the government. There's no private insurance for needed care. You want it for like Botox injections, I guess, if you want to waste your money on insurance for that. But there is no private option in a single payer Medicare for all system. And let me just say really quickly, when people say that, they're saying that because they're trying to water it down. Medicare for all is a term that polls well. So rather than saying Medicare for all bad, they're saying Medicare for all is my mediocre half measure plan too. No, Medicare for all is single payer, and don't allow anyone to redefine it.
Now, I want to make a clarification. Some people are of the belief that Medicare for all is a Medicare that we know today that has a donut hole, that has problems with, that has a 20% copay, that has a deductible, all these things. That's false.
It's false.
Explain, Max.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, the actual name of the act is the Expanded and Improved Medicare for All Act. So, when opponents say that, by passing Medicare for all, we're destroying Medicare, it's literally the opposite. We're not only expanding Medicare to cover all people, we're also improving it, to include long-term care, pharmaceuticals, mental health care, to actually cover everything that falls under health care.
Okay, now people are going to be in order to make something that is so well thought out look problematic, there are many different angles that they are coming against. I don't know how much you know about viruses, but the way we got the AIDS virus attack is from many different angles, and that is how we killed it. Not from one angle, but from many different angles. That's how we got it under control. That's what they're trying to do with Medicare for all. So these are the things that they're saying Medicare for all will do. Number one, for those people who are have their retirement investment in companies that are insurance-based, they will lose money. They said that all the people that are working in the insurance industries are going to lose their jobs. They said, look, many people love their insurance policies, so why not just have a public option? And because people like what they have right now, dissuade them.
So That was a lot there, but the one I really want to address is the public option, because that's something that a lot of people have been duped to believing is a good idea.
Right.
So there's two angles to it. First is it's easier to do than Medicare for All. No, it is not. There's so the Partnership for America's Healthcare Future, which is the front group for the insurance and drug companies, they have said that they treat a public option the same way they do Medicare for All, because they don't want any sort of expansion of government-provided insurance. So that shows you that they're going to fight just as hard. If you don't believe me, we're both from California. We had a ballot initiative in 2016 called Prop 61, which would have implemented one cost control on prescription drugs. The drug companies spent over $118 million to kill that one cost control. There wasn't even a major overhaul. So Medicare for All, public option, doesn't matter what the change, it's not going to be any easier. But on top of that, a public option is a bad policy, because what you're essentially doing is making it easier for private companies to price the sickest people out. When you get all the sick people going into the public option, now you see the public options cost skyrocketing because there aren't enough healthy people to balance out all the sick. You're going to create a death spiral. There have been 2 studies on a public option from the CBO, which have both said either 1, it's going to cost more, or 2, it's not even going to dramatically expand coverage. So it's not even a good policy, let alone a substitute for Medicare for All.
And many people think that because there isn't, people don't have to be forced to buy insurance anymore, that somehow the insurance companies will get off. The public option creates a problem. But anyhow, tell me a little bit more about the loss of unemployment.
Yeah, that's another common concern that we get. And I think one thing that we're really proud about HR 1384 is that it includes something called the just transition, which it is very true that there are tons of people employed by the insurance companies, employed by providers to kind of deal with this kind of payment bureaucracy in our system, and really simplifying that bureaucracy is part of where Medicare for All produces such substantial savings. But just because we want to reduce the bureaucracy and streamline the system doesn't mean that we want to make sure that the workers are not crushed in that process. So the bill includes something called a just transition, which allocates a certain percentage of the total healthcare spending to ensure that workers are able to find new jobs, that they're retrained, that they're helped into early retirement if they're close, to essentially ensure that they're not again crushed in the process of transition.
It's interesting because first of all, if we were to dictate policy based on, well, we want to keep people employed, and in fact we're saying, do we want to overcharge people? Do we want to have a system just to create a healthcare system that prices a whole lot of people out just to create employment? That in itself is immoral.
Yeah.
I think what is great is that this bill says that since we have screwed up on healthcare, no fault of the average population, no fault of the worker, we are going to try to mitigate. That is a good thing. But by no means, in my opinion, I don't know how you guys feel, by no means should we be concerned that, well, there are going to be less people employed in a business that need not have people employed.
Right.
I don't think that it has to be either or. I think that in addition to, as you see a reduction in the private bureaucracy, you need more people to process Medicare issues. So there's a seamless transition to a new job for a lot of these people. But it's like you said, it's not their fault that our system is so bad, so they shouldn't be punished for it.
And that's what the bill does. Now, how are you finding the fight? Are you when you're out there on the ground?
Yeah, I think I can speak for our team when I say that it's going really, really well. When you go out and knock on doors, we've had thousands of canvassing events across the country in nearly every state, where neighbors are going out and talking to other neighbors about Medicare for All and really galvanizing supporters to contact their representatives to get on board. It's an extremely popular issue. As you know, healthcare is at the top of basically everybody's concerns, and Medicare for All is across the political spectrum, really seen as the solution. So we've had a ton of success. We've had 3 historic hearings in Congress this year already on Medicare for All, and just about 2 days ago we got 2 new co-sponsors. So we're now one co-sponsor short of having a majority of Democrats in the House on the Medicare for All bill.
In that case, Nancy Pelosi will have to move.
Yes.
All right. Well, for whatever I missed asking, Ryan,
tell me something I don't know, and then I'm going to ask Max the same thing.
So the one thing that I do want to address really quickly is the what if I like my private insurance argument, because that's something a lot of people make. People will say, yeah, I like my private insurance, but when you ask them what does that mean, I like my doctor, I like my hospital, I like being able to choose my care. You don't like your insurance, you like your provider. In fact, when people say they like their insurance, it means that their insurance is getting out of the way. So if that's how it's going to be, then let's make that the case for everyone. Right now, you may like your employer-based plan, but your employer could be one day away from deciding to change it to cut costs, and you have no say in the matter. People lose their jobs all the time. People's life circumstances change. So people don't like their health care. They like it when there's no barrier to their health care. So what Medicare for All does is removes that issue entirely by giving everyone essentially a guaranteed high-quality comprehensive plan that they will never be at risk of losing, that will never be at risk of being torn away from them just because they get hurt and can't stay on the job while they're recovering, or because they get incredibly sick. You're never going to have to worry about any of that stuff. And even better, the main benefit is that your doctor and you become the primary decisions of how you get your care. There's no insurance company bureaucracy getting in the way. If your doctor decides that you need certain thing for care, it will be covered and you will get that care.
Max?
Yeah, I want to just paint a brief picture. So we are living in a country now where nearly half of people are not going to the doctor because of financial costs. They're splitting pills in half. They don't have insurance. If they have insurance, they can't afford it. Nearly 50% of people. On the other hand, you have an industry that is making billions and billions of dollars in profit every year, predicated on the denial of care. The situation is really getting untenable, but there's a solution, which is Medicare for All. It's wildly popular. However, despite its popularity, despite the great bill that we have, it won't get passed unless we organize a mass movement to actually hold our elected officials accountable and elect ones that will fight for this. So what I would like to say is that we need people to get involved in this movement to do that. You can find out more information on our website, which is Medicare4all.org. We have canvases going on constantly. We're sending folks to legislators' offices. We're holding rallies, town halls. We're doing everything that we can to get people on board, and we're succeeding. But we always need more help, and we won't win without a mass movement.
A mass movement that is needed, folks. And I want to add one thing here to those of you that are listening, and think about this. This is very important. Many people try to scare you to believe that if you go to Medicare for All, the government has control of your entire health care, and you will be on waiting list and all these types of issues. This is important. Right now, that is what you have with your insurance company today. They tell you what doctor you can see. They tell you what medicines you can take. They tell you if the doctor assigns a procedure to you, whether they will approve you having it or not. That is the control of medicine for you. That is a private sector. That is a profit base telling you, no, you can't have it. Ryan Skolnick, it was a pleasure having you with me. And Max Corturo, it's a pleasure having you with me.
Thanks for having us.
Politics Done Right. Until the next.
Okay, folks, those are two great young men. These guys are out there beating the pavement while we have some simply postulating crap out there, and I just have to put it that way, trying to scare people to death. Those are the good guys. Those are the guys that are looking out for you. Those are the folks that are telling you the truth. And when it comes to things like Medicare for All, I always have specific questions to those people that continuously try to make those on the left seem like somehow they're from outer space, or they're trying to take some. Ask yourself a question. Why is it that we would be looking to do these things? Nobody wants anything for free. What people want is a fair shake. This economy isn't divine. It wasn't created by some master. It was created by people who had ulterior motives It was created by people who wanted to ensure their own power. It was created by people who wanted to ensure the system in a manner that they could maintain their wealth, and that's fine. A lot of people look out for themselves, some more selfishly than others. That's understood. By no means does that mean that those who are under the thumbs of those who created the system, should you continue to support the system in that regards. In a democracy, you have the ability to change the system. In a democracy, the system is yours. In a democracy, the minority that controls it has to use many mechanisms to make you believe that you are useless, to make you believe that you are powerless. But the true thing about a democracy is that you are the one, when masked with others, with the power. And you should not allow what is occurring right now in this country to work. The fake racism, and notice I said fake racism. A lot of folks gonna say, what do you mean by fake racism? No. When I say fake racism, I mean there are those who are pushing people into bringing out their natural carnality based on ignorance into being wrong to others and thinking the other is the other. Don't fall for it. One of the reasons there's nothing, anyone, absolutely nothing, anyone of any on that silly thing called race, on any of that silly thing called all these other isms, are gonna get me to stop talking and trying to tell folks, hey, let's work together, man. I will work with a damn person from the KKK. Because I understand one important fact. The average person, those that are not a part of the plutocracy, and by the way, the plutocracy is not all white. The white thing, the racial thing, is something the plutocracy plays on us so that we fight among ourselves. And I say this every time, and I hope the new folks are listening to me, so that we fight among ourselves, right? We fight among ourselves, and we don't see who's on top. Trump is a piece of you-know-what, folks. Is he a racist? Hell, I don't really know. I know he does racist things, right? But you know who are his friends? Kanye West, Oprah Winfrey, and all these other folks are his friends. And this is what I try to explain to people. Remember this. Up top, they sit down and they laugh at us. Up top, they sit down and they do whatever it is to keep the maximization of what they've extracted from us. And they do whatever it takes. They employ a middle sector to be the guardians of their gates, the executives. They employ those that control you and keep you fighting among each other. So what I try to tell people is don't fall for the game. Don't be out there unfriending people. Don't be out there hating on people. Forgive people, and I'm not talking from the religious forgiveness. I'm not religious, I'm a humanist. But don't let what people's carnality tell you impact how you are going to respond to anybody else. Because if you do that, they win. The reason I can't allow racists to impact me. The reason I can't allow racists to cause me to be racist, to cause me to act racial. The reason I can't allow that is because if I believe everything that I am saying, if I believe that this is all orchestrated from the top, which it is, then I'm falling into the same trap. I am actually allowing what they are preaching to work. I won't. And I will try to continuously impart on you not to let that happen. I only have about 30 seconds to tell you this because I got to get out of here. But please, folks, this is a call-in show, but also it's a show that needs your support. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright or just go to politicsdoneright.com and contribute to the show, subscribe to the show, purchase something from our store, which has a whole lot of nice little things to purchase from. Do something to keep us doing what we're doing, to keep us giving the messages that are out there that the mainstream media can't have you know, because if you know these things, then you're empowered, and nobody wants you empowered. Nobody wants you to take control. I guarantee you that. So please support us. Patreon.com/Politics Done Right. You get all my books online and quite a few other things. Just go to politicsdoneright.com and think about contributing to keep us alive, keep us on air. We're here, of course, 5 days a week, and on Tuesdays we're on KPFT 90.1 FM, that huge station, 100,000 watt transmitter. But anyhow, we're going to have to get out of here. I thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. Please understand where I'm coming from. Please listen to what I'm saying. Please corroborate what I'm saying. Don't take anything that I say, or for that matter, anything anybody says, at face value. Because you know what? If you believe what you're saying, you don't mind if people are checking up on you. So check up on me. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am, what is it gonna be again? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.